So I really got one problem with Indiana, and it's fairly simple. For me, they just haven't played anybody yet. And if you put aside all the astounding statistics that they put together, I mean, among them, they are one of the best rushing teams. They're one of the best rush defense teams. They're one of the best passing teams. They're very efficient on third down. They're outstanding on third down on defense. They keep people from scoring, and they're able to control the game in a very Curt Cignetti, Indiana kind of way. One of the things that I also enjoy about this man is nothing seems to please him. You can see him on the sideline, and it's never a smile. It's always kind of what's expected, or that didn't quite go according to plan. And he sees football very, very clearly. It's a very simple game to him, and one in which he's able to express what he needs to his players and to his assistants in ways that manifest results. We're looking at the scoreboard now, and he is 20-2 as a head coach. That's remarkable given what Indiana has been, which is one of the losingest programs in all of college football, period, right? And then he shows up, and immediately they go 11-2 with losses to the two teams that played in the national championship game, Ohio State and Notre Dame. And then let's take a look at just what he's able to do as, my goodness, this 9-0 season's got off to another start, and it's more the same. It's what people have come to expect from Indiana. It's what I've come to expect from Indiana, but just how good can this team actually be remains to be seen. Like, I have yet to see this team really dragged into the deep water, save one time, and I think it's worth pointing this part out. This is a program that hasn't really played anybody save Oregon. And the Oregon game showed us a lot, right? They go into Autzen, and they arguably get the best win of anybody in college football this season. 30-20. They were in control from the start. They knew what Oregon's defense wanted to do, and Oregon knew what Indiana's offense wanted to do. And it was Fernando Mendoza making plays with his legs. It was also the run game getting going, and they've got two great wideouts at Indiana. I think they've got a real argument for being the second best group of wideouts in college football behind Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. I mean, Elijah Surratt has been battling injury here of late, and I hesitate to think what happens to Indiana if he goes down. But they're mostly a running team that gets one-on-one coverage and man coverage, and then Fernando and those wide receivers beat that coverage. Now, what happens when you play a football team that is as good as you are? What happens when you play another defense that can nullify the talent advantage that you have on offense? Well, we got to see what that looks like against Iowa. Iowa, watch the Kennesaw State tape, watch the Old Dominion tape, and watch the Indiana State tape. Yes, even that tape. And leave it to Phil Parker, who I think is one of the most underappreciated defensive play callers in history, to find a way to get to Indiana and to keep the score down so that Tim Lester's offense can try to make something happen. They even led that game for a little while. So what happened? Well, Phil Parker made it very clear. When he got the invitation to play Indiana, or they extended the invitation to play Indiana at Kinnick, he came with more people than was RSVP'd for to the party, man. Like, they might have expected 5 and 6 man pressures. They weren't expecting 8 relentlessly. Cover zero was a part of this playbook all the while. It is, we're constantly going to send men at you. We're going to first force Fernando Mendoza to stay in there, and we're going to try to hit him. He'll complete some passes. He might even complete some explosives. But we're going to make this into a pressure game. We're going to take your fancy play calling out of it. And we're just going to say, can Fernando Mendoza stand in there long enough to complete this pass? Can your wide receivers beat our corners in man coverage? And let's see what happens after that. And I got to tell you, that worked. Fernando Mendoza looked beat up. He looked shaken and really, really happy just to get the win. Curt Cignetti, for his part, saw it. He knew that this game was going to be difficult because I think he has enough respect for Phil Parker to understand what many of us have come around to understand about Indiana. They don't like to be in 7-man slide protection. They don't like to have just 3 wide receivers out in routes, and they don't like to have running backs that got to check it down. That don't get to check it down. As he said, it just doesn't look pretty on a blackboard, and it doesn't, right? Because it makes the game Really just simple. You got 3 routes. You better go through your reads very quickly, and you better trust your running backs to pick up these missiles that are coming from the second and third level called linebackers and safeties. That is the kind of game that I expect we'll see from Penn State on Saturday. Penn State, for all of its foibles and its 5-game losing streak, still has dudes on defense, led by Dennis Sutton. If for whatever reason you can get it up to go after that team, Jim Knowles, and you can try to make it hurt for Fernando Mendoza, you got a shot here. And this is what Jim Knowles had against Indiana last year when Ohio State played. He had better Jimmies and Joes than they did, and he unleashed them. They started coming after him, and over again. Now, on the one hand, Fernando Mendoza is not your quarterback last year. It's Curtis Rourke. But my point here stands. If Jim Knowles will look back at the tape from the second half of what he did at Ohio State, he will see he can use the same sort of philosophy to try to go get a W against this very good and very efficient Indiana offense. And then maybe we get another answer to the question that I got. Simply is, who is going to drag that team into a deep fourth quarter? Like, it may have to just be Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game, because we just don't think that there's a team left in the regular season that is going to really challenge Indiana man for man outside of this Penn State defense. But they're depleted on offense, notably with Ethan Grunkermeyer at quarterback, and when Andy Koldernicki just plays straight up instead of trying to be cute, run the football with toss sweeps, with trap plays, with counters, with power, you can go win. It's when he tries to do his little throwback stuff that we get into trouble over here. And you're going to need to hold the ball against Indiana. They are explosive, and if you are employing the defensive strategy that I'm asking you to, you're going to give up some chunk plays, and you're going to have to be resilient against it. And then you're going to have to bow up inside of your own 20-yard line. These are all things that I think that Penn State can do. And I think the way that Penn State came out to play against Ohio State should be the kind of game that Indiana should expect to see from them. Now, will that be what it is? And do we expect this football team to go and be great? Who could say at this point, right? But for Indiana, who wants to win the national championship, wants to win the Big Ten championship, continuing to put teams away early and often is the sauce. We know that you can lead from pole and vanish like Max Verstappen. What we don't know is, can you fight your way back? And if you can, I learned something about you.